Imagine a therapy so powerful, it could unlock the darkest corners of your mind, parts you did not even know existed. A method so intense it could bring forgotten memories, repressed emotions, and hidden identities to the surface. It was not science fiction, it was real. And it worked so well, they had to bury it. This therapy was not just controversial, it was considered dangerous, illegal, and even a threat to powerful institutions. Some say it revealed things that were never meant to be found. Others believe it broke more minds than it healed. They called it mind splitting, a technique that shattered the boundaries of identity, memory, and consciousness. Why was it created? Why was it banned? And who's still using it in secret today? Let's uncover the truth. Chapter 1. What is mind splitting? Mind splitting is when the brain breaks into different parts to protect a person from pain. It usually happens when someone feels very scared, hurt, or sad. For example, if a person has a very bad memory, the brain might try to hide it in a different corner. This mental action is called dissociation, when the mind disconnects from painful thoughts or feelings in order to stay safe. Mind-splitting therapy was based on using this idea on purpose. Therapists would help people relax deeply, often using hypnosis or meditation. Then they would guide the person to talk to a specific part of their mind. The person might say things like, "This part of me holds my fear," or "This part protects me." Over time, these parts began to act like real voices inside the person's head. One part might feel anger, another might hold sadness, a third part might try to help or keep them safe. At first, many people said it helped. They could finally speak about things they were too afraid to say before. It felt like their emotional pain was being shared between their inner parts, making it easier to handle. But for some people, things took a wrong turn. They did not stop at just one or two parts. They created many. So many that they started to forget who they really were. Their thoughts became confused. Their sense of self began to fall apart. They felt lost, broken, and unsure of their identity. What started as a form of healing slowly turned into something dangerous. That's when people began to ask the hard question, is this therapy actually helping, or is it causing more harm than good? Chapter 2. Origin of this technique. The true origin of mind splitting is still a mystery. There are no official textbooks, no clear records, and no public teachings. But many experts believe it began in the shadows, inside secret programs and underground psychology labs that wanted to control the human mind. Some say it started with MK-Ultra, a real-life project run by the CIA in the 1950s and 60s. The goal of MK-Ultra was to explore mind control, behavior change, and memory manipulation. They used hypnosis, drugs, sensory deprivation, and psychological techniques to try and break people's minds and rebuild them. It's believed that during these experiments, the idea of splitting a person's identity into parts was discovered, not to heal, but to control. Others think mind-splitting began in military hospitals after war. Soldiers who experienced severe trauma or PTSD were often unable to talk about their pain. Doctors started experimenting with mental compartmentalization, dividing memories into pieces so that soldiers could function without being emotionally overwhelmed. This practice slowly developed into a method where different mental identities were used to manage trauma. But here's the strange part. Mind splitting was never part of normal psychology training. It was not taught in universities, not approved by medical boards, and not written in any official manuals. It spread quietly, passed from one private therapist to another. Some kept handwritten notes, others shared techniques in secret groups. There were whispers, not lectures. Rumors, not research. Why so hidden? Because the deeper they went, the more dangerous the method became. Mind splitting could unlock memories people were not supposed to remember. It gave therapists too much power, and soon it became clear this was not a normal therapy, it was a psychological weapon, and weapons don't belong in hospitals. Chapter 3. How this technique worked. Mind splitting was not just an idea, it was something people actually did. Therapists followed steps to help a person open their mind and reach parts that were hidden because of pain or fear. It all started with deep relaxation. The therapist helped the person become very calm, almost like falling into a dream. This helped their brain open up and become more ready to remember things. Next, the therapist asked the person to think about sad or scary memories from the past, usually from childhood. These memories were often very painful. Then, the therapist would say something like, "Let's make a part of you that can hold this pain." This part was like a little version of the person. It might have a name, it might speak in a different voice. It had one job: to carry the pain so the person could feel lighter. Some people had a part for anger. Some had a part that tried to protect them. Some had a part that remembered things they did not want to think about. At first, people felt better. They said it helped. But later, problems started. Some people made too many parts. They began to feel confused. They did not know who they really were anymore. They felt broken and scared. What was meant to heal them started to hurt them instead. The therapy that looked safe was no longer safe. It crossed a line that should not have been crossed. Chapter 4. Why mind-splitting technique was banned. At first, mind-splitting looked like a breakthrough in trauma therapy. But as more people used it, serious problems began to appear. Patients who had started the therapy to heal ended up more broken than before. Some began losing chunks of memory after each session. Others started developing symptoms of dissociative identity disorder, also known as having multiple personalities. They could not remember who they were or what had happened during therapy. Some spoke in different voices. A few even claimed they had parts that acted on their own. Families were shocked. Lawsuits were filed. Patients accused therapists of manipulating them, going too deep into their minds, and creating mental damage that could not be undone. The therapy was no longer just controversial, it was dangerous. Psychological associations stepped in. They reviewed cases, heard testimonies, and investigated the practice. The results were clear. Mind-splitting caused emotional instability, identity confusion, and in some cases, permanent psychological harm. It was declared unethical and removed from all official guidelines. But some believe the real reason it was banned goes deeper. They say mind-splitting was uncovering memories that powerful people did not want exposed. Memories of abuse, cover-ups, or even secret experiments. It was not just dangerous to the patient, it was dangerous to the system. So, they buried it. What started as a tool for healing became something much darker, and the only way to stop it was to silence it completely. Chapter 5. Who still uses it today? Even though mind-splitting was banned by mental health authorities, it never truly disappeared. It simply moved underground, away from hospitals, away from legal therapists, and into a hidden world of fringe psychology, spiritual healing, and internet forums. Some therapists still use it in secret, often under different names like inner part therapy, ego state work, or parts integration. They don't advertise it, but behind closed doors they guide people into deep mental states, using hypnosis, meditation, or trauma regression. Once there, they help the person talk to the different parts of their mind. These parts may hold fear, anger, protection, shame, and in some cases, entire separate identities. In spiritual and energy healing communities, mind-splitting has taken on a mystical form. People talk about shadow selves, soul fragments, or higher beings within. Coaches, shamans, and self-proclaimed healers guide people through inner journeys, helping them meet different sides of themselves. But these practitioners usually have no medical training, which makes the process risky and unpredictable. The internet has made this even more widespread. On YouTube, Reddit, and Telegram groups, people share personal stories, experiences, and even tutorials on how to split your mind by yourself. Some claim it changed their life. Others quietly admit it left them confused, paranoid, or emotionally unstable. This new wave is not therapy anymore. It's a movement, a quiet rebellion against traditional psychology, but without rules, ethics, or safety. Mind-splitting did not vanish. It simply adapted, and now it's spreading in the shadows, unregulated, unchecked, and more dangerous than ever. Chapter 6. Is there any truth to it? Mind-splitting sounds extreme, even dangerous, but is there any truth behind it? Could it actually help some people? Or is it just a risky mind game? Modern psychology agrees on one thing: the brain can separate painful thoughts and memories to survive trauma. This is called dissociation, and it's a real, documented mental process. People who go through serious trauma often feel disconnected from their body, their surroundings, or even their emotions. It's the brain's way of protecting itself. So, in theory, the idea behind mind-splitting is not completely fake. The brain already has a natural system for managing pain. Mind-splitting just tries to control that system, on purpose. Some psychologists believe that, in very rare and extreme cases, helping someone talk to different parts of themselves could lead to healing. For example, it might help survivors of childhood abuse or long-term trauma process deep emotions, but even they admit it's a dangerous path. The risk of confusing, damaging, or further splitting the person's mind is very high. Most mental health experts strongly reject the practice. They argue that healthy therapy should focus on integration, not division. The goal is to bring all parts of the mind back together, not create more separation. In the end, mind-splitting walks a very thin line between therapy and harm. It touches real science, but crosses into dangerous territory. It's a method built on truth, but twisted by misuse. So yes, there may be something real at the core of mind-splitting, but that does not mean it should be used. Not every powerful tool is safe, and not every truth should be turned into a treatment. You've just explored a therapy so forbidden it was buried by the very system that created it. But now that you know the truth, ask yourself this: if your mind could speak, would you dare to listen? Mind-splitting was not just about healing. It was about control, power, and what happens when we go too deep. So here's your moment to respond. Drop one word in the comments: unlocked. Let the world know you're not afraid to face what lies beneath the surface. And if you're the kind of person who questions everything, who wants to explore the psychology they never teach you, then don't just scroll away. Subscribe now. Join the movement. Discover what's hidden. Because the mind hides more than memories. It hides truth.